Absolutely, and President Trump is committed to doing that in every city in this country.
And Madam Attorney General, just to be very brief here, I want to be sure that you know that many on this committee.
February 8th, 2026, 6:47 a.m., Coral Gables, Florida. Federal agents breached the mahogany doors of a Mediterranean revival mansion on Alhambra Circle. The home belongs to Marcus Chen, executive director of Hope Horizon Foundation, a Miami-based charity claiming to serve homeless veterans. Inside the foyer, beneath a crystal chandelier imported from Venice, agents discover their first anomaly. The walls sound hollow. 3 hours later, those walls lie in pieces across imported Italian marble floors. Behind the drywall, stacked in vacuum-sealed bundles, sits $3.2 million in cash, all 20s and 50s. The bills still smell of chemical residue. Laboratory analysis would later confirm traces of cocaine and fentanyl on 87% of the currency. This is not the charity work Chen advertised on his website. The facade collapses. Hope Horizon Foundation operated from a gleaming office tower in Brickell for 6 years. The organization claimed annual revenues of $28 million, supposedly raised through private donations and federal grants. Their promotional materials featured testimonials from veterans, photographs of food distributions, and partnerships with legitimate nonprofit organizations. Chen himself appeared at city council meetings, posed with elected officials, and received commendations for community service. Federal investigators had been watching for 18 months. The operation began when ICE agents, tracking bulk cash smuggling networks connected to the Sinaloa cartel, noticed unusual financial patterns emanating from Hope Horizon's accounts. Wire transfers moved in predictable cycles. Deposits arrived from shell companies registered in Delaware and Nevada. Withdrawals flowed to vendors that existed only on paper. The foundation claimed to operate 12 shelter facilities across South Florida. Site visits by undercover agents revealed the truth. 8 of those facilities did not exist. 3 were abandoned warehouses. 1 was an upstore mailbox. The money was going somewhere else. Follow the money. Special Agent Rebecca Torres led the joint FBI ICE task force. She had spent 2 decades dismantling financial networks for criminal enterprises. This case exhibited patterns she recognized immediately: layering, structuring, integration. The classic money laundering trilogy, executed through a tax-exempt nonprofit corporation. The investigation revealed a sophisticated operation. Cartel operatives in Mexico would move bulk cash across the border using traditional smuggling routes, hidden compartments in vehicles, cross-border tunnels, maritime vessels landing at isolated coastal points. Once in the United States, the currency became a liability. Large quantities of cash cannot easily enter the banking system without triggering federal reporting requirements. Financial institutions must file currency transaction reports for deposits exceeding $10,000. Criminals need washing machines. Hope Horizon Foundation provided industrial-scale laundering capacity. Here is how the system functioned. Shell companies controlled by cartel associates would create false invoices for services allegedly provided to the foundation. Construction contracts, food service agreements, transportation logistics, medical supplies. The foundation would issue checks drawn on accounts at local banks, transferring funds to these shell entities. Those businesses would then wire money internationally, pay it out as salaries to cartel members, or deposit it into cryptocurrency exchanges. The original cash never touched the formal banking system. It stayed hidden in walls, storage units, and safe deposit boxes, slowly distributed as the foundation spent its budget on phantom programs. The scale was breathtaking. Federal prosecutors would later establish that between January 2020 and February 2026, Hope Horizon processed $195 million in cartel proceeds. The foundation reported this money as charitable donations and federal grants on tax returns filed with the years. They claimed 501c3 tax-exempt status, meaning the organization paid no federal income tax on these funds. American taxpayers subsidized cartel money laundering through the tax code. The network expands. Chen did not operate alone. Coordinated arrests on February 8th swept up 7 individuals across 3 states. Sarah Rodriguez, the foundation's chief financial officer, managed the accounting systems that created false documentation. Her spreadsheets showed meticulous record-keeping. Every fake invoice matched to a corresponding check. Every shell company payment reconciled against fabricated budgets. She earned $340,000 annually for her services. David Park served as the foundation's legal counsel. He drafted contracts with non-existent vendors, filed incorporation documents for shell companies, and provided legal opinions certifying compliance with nonprofit regulations. His law degree came from a legitimate institution. He used that education to construct criminal infrastructure. The operation included street-level participants. Miguel Santos managed the physical cash. He oversaw pickups from cartel couriers, stored currency in rented warehouses, and delivered funds to safe houses where they remained hidden until needed. Federal agents arrested him leaving a storage facility in Hialeah, carrying duffel bags containing $470,000. He attempted to flee. Agents tackled him in the parking lot. The money scattered across hot asphalt. Bank employees facilitated the scheme. Tellers at 3 different institutions failed to file required suspicious activity reports despite processing thousands of transactions exhibiting obvious red flags. One teller accepted cash payments totaling $890,000 over 6 months from Santos, structuring deposits to stay below reporting thresholds. She received $15,000 in cash bribes. She faces up to 5 years in federal prison. The victims speak. At the press conference announcing the arrests, Assistant U.S. Attorney James Morrison read from impact statements submitted by actual homeless veterans who believed they were receiving legitimate services from Hope Horizon. One statement came from Thomas Wright, a 63-year-old Marine Corps veteran struggling with PTSD and housing insecurity. I saw their advertisements on the bus. I called the number. Someone told me they were at full capacity, but I could apply for future assistance. They took my personal information, my social security number, my DD-214. I never heard back. Later, I found out they used my identity to claim they served me. My name appeared in their grant applications to the Department of Veterans Affairs. They collected federal funding using my information while I slept in my car. Federal prosecutors identified 47 veterans whose identities were exploited to generate false program statistics. The foundation claimed these individuals received housing assistance, job training, and medical services. None of them received anything except identity theft. The betrayal operates on multiple levels. These defendants stole from taxpayers by claiming tax-exempt status while conducting criminal enterprise. They stole from veterans by exploiting their identities and co-opting their suffering for cover. They stole from legitimate charities by eroding public trust in the nonprofit sector. They provided material support to drug trafficking organizations responsible for thousands of American deaths annually. The evidence mountain. Search warrants executed on February 8th produced overwhelming documentation. At Hope Horizon's offices, agents seized 17 computers, 42 boxes of financial records, and 3 filing cabinets filled with fake contracts. Digital forensics teams extracted deleted emails showing explicit coordination with cartel operatives. One email chain, recovered from Chen's laptop, discussed optimal methods for structuring cash deposits to avoid detection. Another contained photographs of currency stacks with handwritten notes indicating quantities and pickup schedules. The cash discoveries extended beyond Chen's residence. Agents found money hidden in wall cavities at Rodriguez's apartment, $1.8 million. At a warehouse leased under Park's name, $4.3 million. Inside a storage unit rented by Santos, $7.2 million. Additional funds sat in safe deposit boxes at banks across Miami-Dade County. The total cash seizure reached $23.6 million on day 1. Financial analysis traced the laundered money back to specific criminal operations. Wire transfers corresponded with major drug seizures at the border. When DEA agents intercepted a shipment of 500 kilograms of cocaine in Laredo, deposits into Hope Horizon accounts dropped precipitously the following month. When ICE arrested a cell of money couriers in Phoenix, corresponding payments to shell companies ceased for 6 weeks. The operational correlation was undeniable. International cooperation proved essential. Mexican authorities provided intelligence on cartel financial networks. Bank records from shell companies in the Cayman Islands revealed the ultimate destinations of wired funds. Europol contributed data on cryptocurrency wallets receiving transfers from entities paid by Hope Horizon. The money trail crossed borders, jurisdictions, and financial systems, but investigators tracked every dollar. The legal reckoning. The indictment, unsealed on February 9th, contains 43 counts. Chen faces charges including conspiracy to commit money laundering, operating an unlicensed money transmitting business, wire fraud, making false statements to federal agencies, and theft of government funds. Each defendant faces individually tailored charges based on their specific roles. The money laundering conspiracy charge alone carries a maximum sentence of 20 years. Prosecutors filed notice of intent to seek enhanced penalties based on the quantity of funds involved and the connection to drug trafficking. Federal sentencing guidelines calculate punishment based on the amount of laundered money. At $195 million, defendants face life imprisonment if convicted on all counts. Asset forfeiture proceedings target everything purchased with criminal proceeds. Chen's mansion, valued at $3.4 million, subject to seizure. Rodriguez's luxury vehicles, Park's beach condo, Santos's boat. The government will liquidate these assets and deposit proceeds into the Treasury Forfeiture Fund. None of these defendants will profit from their crimes. The Ayers Criminal Investigation Division joined the prosecution. Hope Horizon filed false tax returns for 6 consecutive years. Chen signed those returns under penalty of perjury, certifying their accuracy. Each false return constitutes a separate felony. Tax charges provide backup conviction opportunities if money laundering charges somehow fail. Systemic vulnerabilities exposed. This case illuminates dangerous weaknesses in nonprofit oversight. The Ayers Grants tax exempt status based largely on applications and self-reported information. Annual Form 990 filings require financial disclosures, but the agency lacks resources to verify every claim. In 2025, approximately 1.8 million tax-exempt organizations operated in the United States. The ears examined fewer than 5,000 of them. Hope Horizon operated for 6 years without triggering audit. State charity regulators failed equally. Florida's Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services registers charitable organizations and reviews financial reports. Hope Horizon submitted clean paperwork annually. Nobody visited their claimed facilities. Nobody interviewed supposed beneficiaries. Nobody scrutinized the improbable revenue growth from an organization with no visible fundraising infrastructure. Banks missed obvious warnings. Tellers processed structured deposits. Branch managers approved wire transfers to shell companies with generic names and post office box addresses. Compliance officers reviewed transaction patterns showing classic layering behavior. Required suspicious activity reports were never filed. The Bank Secrecy Act exists precisely to catch these patterns. Financial institutions have legal obligations to report them. Multiple banks failed that obligation. The charity sector creates unique money laundering vulnerabilities. Nonprofits handle large cash volumes from legitimate fundraising. They maintain complex networks of vendors and service providers. They operate across state lines and international borders. They enjoy public trust and regulatory deference. All these characteristics create cover for criminal exploitation. The Cartel Connection. Federal prosecutors linked Hope Horizon directly to the Sinaloa Cartel's Miami operations. Wiretap evidence captured conversations between Chen and cartel financial operatives discussing pickup schedules and payment processing. Surveillance teams photographed known cartel associates entering Hope Horizon offices. Cell phone location data placed Chen at meetings with identified cartel members. The Sinaloa cartel generates billions annually from drug trafficking. That revenue arrives as cash, small bills, dirty bills, bulk currency requiring laundering. The cartel maintains sophisticated financial networks to clean that money and reintegrate it into legitimate commerce. They employ accountants, lawyers, and bankers. They control businesses that provide cover for transactions. They corrupt officials who should stop them. Hope Horizon represented one node in a vast network. Federal investigators identified connections to similar operations in Houston, Los Angeles, and Phoenix. Other charitable organizations, other financial networks, other defendants. The Miami case opened doors to nationwide investigations. More arrests are coming. Justice delivered. On November 14, 2026, Marcus Chen stood before Judge Catherine Walsh in Federal District Court. 12 jurors had deliberated for 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on 39 counts. Chen showed no emotion as the verdicts were read. His attorney immediately filed notice of appeal. Sentencing occurred on January 23, 2027. Judge Walsh imposed the maximum penalty, 300 years in federal prison. Chen will serve his sentence in a maximum security facility. He will die there. Rodriguez received 80 years. Park received 60 years. Santos received 40 years. The teller who accepted bribes received 5 years. Every participant paid for their choices. The warning. This investigation should disturb every American. Criminal organizations have learned to weaponize our institutions against us. They exploit the nonprofit sector, the banking system, and the regulatory framework designed to protect public welfare. They hide behind charitable missions while funding violence. They steal legitimacy from organizations genuinely serving vulnerable populations. The Hope Horizon case represents both victory and warning. Federal investigators dismantled one network, seized criminal proceeds, and imprisoned conspirators. But how many other operations continue undetected? How many charitable organizations operate as criminal fronts? How much cartel money flows through American institutions disguised as legitimate transactions? Vigilance requires participation. Donors should verify organizations before contributing. State regulators need funding to conduct meaningful oversight. Banks must enforce reporting requirements regardless of customer complaints. Federal agencies require resources to investigate suspicious charities. Congress should strengthen penalties for those who exploit tax-exempt status for criminal purposes. The walls of Marcus Chen's mansion concealed $3.2 million. The walls of our regulatory systems conceal gaps that criminals exploit daily. Both require demolition and reconstruction. The question is not whether these vulnerabilities exist. The evidence lies scattered across marble floors and Coral Gables. The question is whether we possess the will to fix them before the next Hope Horizon Foundation opens its doors.